Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Blackberry Township. We're having an open meeting here about the new jail proposal. My name is Burl Ives. I do represent District 4, which Blackberry Township is in my district. So thank you for coming, first off. So let's start with a little history about why we're here and a little bit about Itasca County and our jail. So the original jail was built in 1983?
Construction in 82, occupied in 83.
Okay, occupied in 1983. All right. So that would be, and I'm going to walk over and I'll kind of point to things. That would be this area here. In 1997, we'll call it the new Annex Building was put on. That was for more people who are incarcerated at night and work during the day. How's that? Maybe I'm incorrect with those.
Insecurity.
Minimum security. Okay. So back in 1997, when this was first drawn in, a lot of people have seen it. There was a drawing that had 3 floors to it. At that time, the county commissioners only voted to build 1 floor. And the other 2 never got built. So then in 2007, the sheriff at the time came to a proposal of our adding 60-room jail on to our existing jail with the idea of having up to a 6% growth in inmates from there on out. The county board decided not to do that. The price tag at that time was $7.5 million to do that. So here we are 12 years later looking at, good evening, here we are 12 years later, we're looking at a price tag 5 times that, 6 times that type of price tag to get something done in today's world. Why we are here today or tonight basically started, a year and a half ago, early 2018. The Minnesota Department of Corrections gave Itasca County a sunset letter saying we need to do something about our jail. So that kind of started things off. We started to have, under the Sheriff, Mr. Williams, we started a jails task force and to vet out everything and every option that we could come up with. On that task force, there was a couple of commissioners, me and Mr. Trunt. And then there was, I had a judge and a lawyer. I had the jailers, I had the sheriff, I had a handful of private, public people representing 3 different districts. The auditor, administrator. So we had a variety pack of people that sat on there and vetted out our plus the builders and architect and so on and so forth. We kind of vetted out all different ideas. And I was telling somebody earlier tonight, and I'll kind of go back in time here a little bit when we started this all. So when we first sat down, our first conversation was, how can we remodel our existing and make things work? And we started adding up how long it would take to build it, 2 years, maybe a year and a half at fast pace. Added in the cost of putting our prisoners out into other county jails, the cost of it, And then we started looking at size, so on and so forth, and with the way the state is today, that didn't work on the blueprint. And I'll lean on Lucas here in a minute. He kind of explain why the size has changed and how we house people here in a minute. But I just want to, so you understand, we're kind of down to 3 different options today. And I'll point, this is the orange idea. This will be on the west side of the old courthouse. Here's the old courthouse, built in 1949. This is the miners building, city hall, fire station sits right here. Okay, dry cleaner, carpet. This is a green idea. This green idea would go on, why they call it a green idea, would go on a piece of green land somewhere in the industrial zone of the city of Grand Rapids. So within the city of Grand Rapids, you only can build in 2 areas, build a jail. You only can build it in the downtown district, business district, which basically lies just to the east of the courthouse and goes all the way over to the grocery store and then goes down to the river. Now, some of the ideas there is that I can build differently than any other place in the city. Zoning's a lot less lax. I can build right up to the back of the sidewalk. I don't need parking, that type of thing. All right. Now, green site, you know, for every 200 square feet of building, you need to have a parking spot. That is anywhere in the city. If you're not in downtown business, that's what you have to have. So when you look at, you know, Target, and you say, all right, why do you have such a huge parking lot? Well, because the square footage of the building, I got to have so many parking spots. So just kind of figure that's how that works. So we started with the task force. We started with, like I said to begin with, how to remodel what we had. Then we went to the west side. We looked at this piece of property already. Then we went over to the east side, over in that big parking lot, and we looked at that one. And then we went down into the industrial zone, ASV, down by Walmart, down in that area. And then, on the task force too, we did have the city of Grand Rapids at that meeting, just so you're aware of it. But we started looking everywhere. City of Grand Rapids at the time wasn't interested in selling us the fire hall right here on the east side of this building. This street right here is dead-ended now, but there's a creek that basically drains Ice Lake, goes all the way down to the river. You can't build on top of it. So that added some challenges. How's that? To build on the east side, we moved it away from the building. Your real savings comes when your courthouse and your jail are connected. That's when you really get the savings. You know, right now we are spending $650,000, $700,000 a year paying the transport and overnight stays of inmates that don't stay in our county. We're dealing with 5 counties right now that we ship to. And you gentlemen, if I'm doing anything incorrect here with any of my statements, you jump up, Sheriff or Luke, either one.
Oh, we will.
Okay, all right. Sorry.
Right now, you're doing good.
Am I doing okay right now? Okay.
A lot of odds and does in there, but we'll.
Well, sorry. I apologize. But so then we looked at the industrial zone. Industrial zone in Grand Rapids, you know, the majority of that land is owned by the city of Grand Rapids. They have no desire to sell us any of that property. So now you're down to a handful of private people that own property. I think there's 4 or 5 private people that own property there. So we started narrowing down real quick. Then we looked at City of La Prairie. So they have the old Rainbow site that has enough room to make that kind of happen, but you are in a different city, which moves the county seat, which that's a red tape nightmare. Can it be done? Yes. Can it be done in 6 months or to a year? No. It's going to take more like a year and a half, 2 years to get that done just in the courts. So we looked at Cohasset, we looked at over by Ainsworth, we looked at over by the hospital, we looked at the old sawmill, the old Kmart building. They weren't zoned properly, but we looked at them. They do have enough size. We looked at Harris Township. So we came back to Grand Rapids saying, all right, can we find something in this green zone with one of the 5 entities that own property? And so we still are working on that idea of who, what, and how much. So now, if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of go, that's kind of a brief background. Here's where we're at, how we got here. But let's talk a little bit about the different styles of jails. I'm going to lean on Lucas a little bit. Yes, sir.
First of all, just
Yep.
so everybody knows, do a little bit of laying some of the Facebook ideas to rest for people right off the bat. Because if you look at the monsters of how we're doing this, people go, the old facility, the jail facility, which is a linear design, Lucas will get into that. But when people talk about the fact that, well, geez, why didn't you just take care of the jail? Why didn't you guys keep it up? Why didn't you stay on top of things? Well, there's kind of a blend of things that happened to us in the correctional setting. It was a combination of things that have put us in this position. Number one, the age of the facility and the ability to completely and continually retrofit everything to it. The spacing, we don't have the space to occupy our current rate of inmate population. And the design. The design is no longer than this linear form of jail, which Lucas will talk about, isn't an acceptable form of DOC. So the Department of Corrections doesn't want us using that model. Our building is getting hard to retrofit and keep up and even access cement runs and stuff where our electrical goes through, our water's had problems. And the sheer size won't hold what we need. When they talked about this fit that Pat Maduri and Terry Schneider did in '97, that was to address a low-level offender need. For that time frame, it allowed us 40 beds that gave us room to set some out and keep harder offenders upstairs in the secure facility. If we took all 3 of those floors like they planned on building back then, still wouldn't accommodate this square footage or the rate of growth we're dealing with now. This rate of growth that we're looking at now not only takes into account what we've lost so far, but tries to project out in a 30-year, 40-year fix of accommodating our future growth to the best of our abilities. We don't want somebody in 10 years or 15 years coming back again and asking for more money. That's the thing that I have a fear of, is if we don't address the needs that we're dealing with now and set it so that it targets to address them future needs to the best of our calculations, we're going to be revisiting this again. So when we don't lean towards either plan. The recommendation from the jail task force, which for all practical purposes wasn't from the old Soviet Union bloc, it didn't violate open meeting laws. We were tasked at that point to get a few people together to come up with ideas for the county board to start with. From not doing anything at all, which would mean that we would try to house out all of our prisoners statewide, meaning we would have to try to accommodate the court's calendar by transporting people daily from all these alternate locations, which would be a strategic nightmare and it'd cost us a fortune. And the liability of putting this many people in transit would expose us to even more problems. Plus, we'd also have to maintain some skeleton form of correctional facility to accommodate holding people in custody back at the old courthouse while they're here a period. And on top of it, the other jails don't have enough room for me to spread 200 close enough to accommodate that calendar. So when we look at this trying to not do anything at all, we're past that point. And for just about everybody who stops me in the grocery store or runs into me at Walmart or wherever I'm out and about, people look at me and they go, we get it, we gotta do something with the jail. For the most part, everybody I run into says, I understand that part. Now what's the best way to do that? And how do you do it and not clobber everybody? So when you look at that, that went all the way to this green space. And the reason the task force recommendation came with the green space is as we ran the gamut from doing nothing at all to trying to retrofit, add on, do things separately, it kept pointing to the fact of the best, most long-term, overall cost-effective choice would be to start new and address how we backfill the old court facility. Because when we started to look at, and Lucas will explain this to you, the hardest part of this is the building of the facility is our least amount investment. The longest term investment we have is because we're a service-based orientation is employees. So if I don't design a building that moves us over to accommodate more people and use very close to the same amount of correctional officers, we're defeating our purpose. Because every time I add people, the county owns that for just about ever, it seems like. So those are the things we were tasked with to come back to the county board to say, what is your best and truly best option? We can acquire property that's vacant for less than destroying other buildings. We can go start to finish with efficiencies and everything from employees to electricity to whatever. So the longest cost effect was to do new. Now, the county board has to take that gamut and pick what's the best thing for the county taxpayers. And they have to do that with the weight of the school buildings that were built, with the levy that was been increased by that. So they don't have an easy task, and that's why we've been going out and trying to meet with every group of 20 people we can get, 10 people, 2 people. When you get people information, they will take that and talk about it with their neighbors. Because at the end of the day, how we fund this is going to come back to the taxpayers to decide which route we take on this.
Go ahead.
And I just think it's a stupid comment, but you keep saying about how our future growth is, and I guess that bothers me a little bit, why we're thinking that we're gonna be growing more prisoners instead of doing something to keep them from coming.
Okay, that is excellent, and he'll cover that, because the strange part is, and this will drive you nuts, because when you take our project and what we're doing, and you lay over it the rules of the bureaucracy that govern us, that tell us what to do, that tell us what to build, that tell us how many people can be per square foot and how many people can watch them, it's all coming down to the growth of the inmates. You're thinking, you mean, Vic, in 10 years we're going to be overrun with criminals? No. We've booked 2,000 people for the last how many years?
Since 2005 today, we've on average booked 2,000 plus or minus 150. The growth we're talking about is the average length of stay. So from 2015 to 2019, the inmates stay in jail on average 3 more days. Doesn't sound like much. When you take the 3 and add it to the 2,000 we booked, that growth has been pretty much consistent since the early 1990s.
And the thing that
we only booked 2,000. That's the hard part. People try to think we're getting aggressive maybe and we're booking more. We only booked 2,000.
And then when you look at it, then you add to that, and I'm not going to step into your thing too much because I want you to explain that. You're way better with that than I am. As a sheriff, one of the things you find out that one of our biggest exposures is your jail side, because you actually have people in custody and you're taking care of people. And I have jailers right now that are working very hard and they are doing their jobs in conditions that are, Denise Hurt, who's my chief deputy now, she was the jail administrator. She said we might have an old facility, but it can be neat and it can be clean and it can be well taken care of. That's what we've done. We've run out of room and options to change things. But when you talk about that, the length of stay affects us. The state of Minnesota, they're going to save money in prison systems. You know how they're going to do that? They're going to close a prison. That closing a prison pushes the short-term offenders back out into the county jails. So they are saving money, but cost shifting it on to the counties, and not just the counties, but the ones that specifically have correctional facilities. So those changes are what affect this. And what Lucas will explain to you shortly is even the 200 bed, if we build a 200 bed jail, and right now we have a 107 bed jail, and in that 107 bed jail, the rules only allow us to occupy it with 67 to 70 people. We have to leave a 20 fluctuation buffer in the event that something happens. So even within the number that I build to allow it to keep, they limit what you can keep in there in the event you need more. So if I'm right now housing out 40, I can keep basically 100 back here. I'm already 147. So if I build a jail to hold 147, which I know I'm already holding, we'd have to not be able to hold them because the occupancy wouldn't let us use up all the beds. So the 200 bed concept means that we're going into this knowing we can probably keep 170 in there with room to be able to fluctuate. And that 200, does the 200 include our 10 bed mental health portion? Because in this plan, we are addressing the mental health needs, which is a huge burden in today's society, because right now, my mental health patients, I have to haul to Fargo or Duluth. And we have to try to keep a calendar in the courts from Fargo or Duluth. So it's challenging. So as we went through this design, we tried to encompass all of the current problems that we're trying to deal with now too. And a lot of it is drugs, mental health, and poor medical conditions. All of which, once they're in custody, become our cost and our burden. So this is something that I don't take lightly, because it's so hard to. And then try to explain this to normal people that look at you and go, well, they're in trouble. Do they need all this stuff? I've had everybody tell me to put tents in my field and stuff like that. At the end of the day, these are people. They're in trouble. And Lucas's motto is, it's not our job to punish them, it's our job to see that they sit their time out. And that takes care of them. It's our job to take care of them and not punish them for it. They choose their route. But you had a question?
You had a question, sir.
Yeah, you know, I don't know what this is gonna cost, $70 million. What's our return on investing in this? I mean, how does it pay for itself? Does it? Huber, at least those people pay taxes. You know, I'm all for Huber. You know, but we're pouring all this money into this thing, and I'm for locking them up, don't get me wrong. But, you know, with Blandon down to one line, and that's not much left, MP&L, we're already paying for a school, you know, where's this money gonna come from? Because it doesn't seem like every time, whether it's the county, the state, the federal government, we'll just get some more money and build this. Nobody ever, let's cut out spending over here, like a household would do, so we can afford it over here.
If you don't mind, I'll try to answer that. It'll be a little bit later in the program. But
Well,
I'll
let me
try-
do my stump thing first, though.
Okay. All right.
I gotta say this, because this is the thing that,
All right.
and this is the God's honest truth. We're a service-based, public safety service-based. If you go into this trying to make money, it's not gonna happen. We can do things that generate funding, but most of the money we generate is being taken up by feeding them, housing them. If we bring in prisoners from Duluth to help us make money, it still costs us to take care of them while they're here. So Duluth is just basically reimbursing us for this. So when I tell people that, and that goes to the old saying, if the government comes to you and says we're here to help, that's a scary thing. Because our job is to run this service that takes care of people that screw up in society. There's not really a way to make money off that. And if we tried to make money off this group of people who already are in deprivation, they're already at their worst point in their life. They really don't have nothing. You're not going to put a lien on their home, because if they're in those positions, they don't have that. We have revenue recapture where we do try to reclaim some of our costs through tax returns, things like that, you know. You wanna have somebody irate, if they owe the sheriff money and we put a revenue recapture on them, and they're up and out of jail for a while, but then they go to get the tax return and they look at it and, it's not there. It was collected by me,
Welcome to the real world.
but
We also take lottery winnings. We did take $5,000 from somebody last year. He was not very
I
happy.
wasn't happy, but that, we have to monitor that stuff to get back what we can against this, because this, they don't have anything, and we have to deal with it. So, that's what I caution people, that if I was gonna build this big enough to make money,
Well,
what it takes to operate it and what it takes to fill them, I'm trying to solve our problems right now.
well,
And
I'm
I
not
told
looking
them,
at, not trying to make a business out of it,
yeah,
but it's.
Revenue neutral at least?
Well,
Revenue
it's just a
neutral?
lot of money, you know,
Yeah.
and we're not, we gotta stop. Maybe we got some programs that we've been spending for years over here that once a tax goes in, it never goes away.
Yep.
Once you start to spend here, it never goes away. Some of that stuff needs to go away and funnel toward maybe the better jail, you know, and have a quality jail that will save us money down the road. But we just can't, I'm on a fixed income, I think a lot of people are, you just can't keep digging into
When
my
I-
money, I only got so much.
when I worked in Mayberry, I always, everything was, things surprised me. Nothing surprises me anymore. Because he can be on target and runs his jail efficiently and has it under budget and has just about every year. But one heart attack and they're life flighting the person out of the jail. I own everything from when they leave, and that flies to Duluth and to Fargo. And that costs me money. It's all on the county, the way this system is set up. So the unforeseens are what kill him. We have somebody come in, has the AIDS virus. It's $10,000 for a prescription per month. We have to cover that. So there's things that we have to do by law that are not setting us up for winning this thing. And I'm not degrading anyone because of their poor health. It's our duty and obligation.
Well, I understand once they're in there, but it's just to build the facility, you know. Let's come up with, let's save money like every household does and get a good chunk of it down. You know, you just can't keep taking more from the public. You know, they already got a school put through and all, everyone was down south in Florida for the winter. They ran that vote again. Now we got a school issue out there, building the school. Blandon's down to one paper machine, MP&L's going down. Where are these students gonna be coming from? I think we're losing people, or is it low-income housing we're gonna try to fill our school with? I don't know. I mean, I don't know where all these people are coming from. But it's not an income stream. If they're coming from Beacon Hill, that's a non-contributing you know, coming in.
Or is it though?
Well,
And that'll be the financial thing that Burl will explain in the end. And when we talk about the levy or a sales tax, there's not many people who own their homes that walk out saying they don't want that sales tax. Because the 1% sales tax, which the counties on each side of us have, would pay for this. And the law allows us right now a correctional sales tax that would specifically pay for the jail. And that 1% sales tax is something that everyone contributes to, not just the levy owners. Well, but that's a different monster, and that, I got the letter 18 days before that went to vote. So when we get this letter, and this is the last thing I wanted to see in my retirement term, was a letter telling me we had to build a jail. And I'm looking at it going, you've got to be kidding me. But like I was telling you, I'm not going to get that and continue to kick this can down the road so somebody inherited 200 people being housed out and the jail is failing. We got to fix it. How we're going to do that is going to be largely up to the people once the county board picks a plan, puts it out there and says, okay, here's what we're looking at, how are we going to do this? And
you're saying a 1% sales tax would pay for it?
yeah.
I'll explain that a little bit
Yeah,
later,
and
if you don't mind.
and that's the stuff we've been trying to cover, but the 1% sales tax, everybody contributes.
Yeah.
If you're in Beacon Hill and you buy a piece of pizza at Holiday or a bag of Doritos,
Yeah.
that contributes to it. And somebody corrected me at Squaw Lake and says a piece of pizza don't count, but it does, because if it's prepared food, that does, but your grocery store stuff, it don't apply to grocery store, your clothes, like everything.
So your bag of Doritos
Oh,
don't.
shut up,
Your
Ron.
bag of Doritos don't count, but your pizza does.
Well, we're passionate about this for
Yeah.
a reason, and it's because this is serious, and I told him, I said, oh my God, we have to face people and talk about this. And, he told me, well, can it wait? And I said, oh, no. I said, they're gonna take our license away. And here's what they say, well, let them take it. 2021, let them sunset it and take it. Well, you know what they do? They won't insure us. So I'm housing people with the county at full liability. And we can't do that. I mean, if anybody who works in the people business knows that if you don't have some protections against, especially when they're got them locked up and in custody. I mean, a broken leg, teeth knocked out, so they'll do it to themselves, but guess who it costs? The county. And when I say the county, I don't mean this entity that thinks they're like downtown. That's all of us.
It was like,
Is who it costs. Huh?
it's free, the government takes
Oh.
care of it.
Let's introduce Lucas, and Lucas can kind of stand
One
up.
question here.
If you don't mind, oh, go ahead.
When you have to transport these people to other jails, who does that? Is it your officers do that?
Deputy sheriff, yeah.
So we're taking that manpower off of our streets
Correct.
sometime. I mean,
Right now, I've got a
it's taking
full-time-
to go to Buffalo, that's a full day, it has to be.
Yep.
Or even to Fargo or something like that. So we're taking officers off the street
And transport.
and transporting, and it sounds like it's a lot. So if we eliminate that, we're gonna gain on one end of it too.
Right.
So,
And that's been a huge overtime. And we've already fight that every year.
So how many do we have elsewhere, and do we have any other jails that are housing here?
No, because we're full. So if we're full to our capacity and housing out, we're not housing anybody here.
Today we have 28 out in 3 counties. We're in Aiken, Mille Lacs, and Morrison. March of last year, we had 148 inmates. We had 61 housed out. We were in Aiken, Morrison, Mille Lacs, Crow Wing, and Wright.
Because they're saying, because right now they said the jail's capable of 147,
107.
107.
Yep.
So we have, but 147 number coming is for a new jail, or?
No, that's what we're,
That's what it's
Our number is 200 beds for the new jail.
147 was what we call our peaking factor. That's the highest point we hit last year. It was 147 inmates in custody.
How old is here?
Technically, they're in Itasca, but we have them everywhere else.
Everywhere else, okay.
Ours is a difficult one to explain the design. That's what we're going
ahead.
into. We'll
Yeah.
explain some of that. So the old jail is basically what we call a linear
That's mine,
design.
that's yours.
It's a hospital. You walk down a hallway.
Is that in here?
Yeah, it should be on the orange, and it's basically the white, so it's not actually part of the new concept.
Yep, it's that one.
That's the old jail.
Okay, thank you.
So it's hallways with basically what you call cells on each side, or it'd be a hotel, or not a hotel. See, I got
That's okay.
my mind there. A
Yeah,
hospital.
yeah, yeah.
So you walk down it and you look in a window. Actually, we open the door and go in because we have to physically see them. We can't see them through a barrier. So we go in and we see them every 30 minutes. So we make this rounds with a couple guards within every 30 minutes, and we make physical contact with these people. But when we shut that door and walk away, we don't have any contact till the next time we go in within that half hour. So for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, they're literally on their own. It's called a linear design. The National Institute of Corrections said a linear design should be outphased in 1979. Itasca chose to build one in 1982. The fact that we got 37 years out of it, I think was pretty good. The new designs will be direct supervision or indirect supervision. Now the main difference would be how you see the inmate. So either one of these concepts will have 2 direct supervision housing and 2 indirect. So this room being a square, picture it 2 floors tall, no floor in it, but a walkway around the edge. So there's cells on top and cells on bottom. The guard sits right here at a desk. He's in with the inmates 24/7. So they're always in there. Unlike the other design, we only see them for 2 or 3 minutes every 30. You literally sit in and live with the inmates on these 2 pods, the direct supervision. The indirect supervision,
And how many people?
1 to 60.
What, so one, One person
staff
for
to 60
watching 60
inmates.
people.
The old design, 1 to 25. And National Institute of Corrections will tell you over a 30-year life cycle of a correctional facility, 10% cost, over 60, it's like 63 to 64% is staffing. Staffing is where it actually kills the taxpayer. It's running it with the staff. So how do you go from what we have for 25 staff to a facility that's double the size without doubling the staff? Well, the efficiency is the design. So if we can do 1 to 60 and 1 to 60, which are 2 GP tanks, we'll get to classification in a second. And now the other 2 indirect supervision, there's a glass wall. The guard sits at the table. He can look through the glass and see the inmates all day as well. However, it's like a pie shape. So there's 10 inmates in here, there's a wall. 10 inmates, a wall. 10 inmates, a wall. That way we can do female min security, female GP, female max, male GP. Guard can still sit there and see everybody, but we can get all the classifications in. So it's very efficient between the 2 designs compared to the old design. That's where we save money building this setup over that. And then some people are like, well, we have 60 inmates and 1 staff. Couldn't we cut it to 40 and save some money? Well, we could save a little bit on bricks and mortar, but you're not saving anything on the staffing. The ratio is still the same, so maximize what we can have to potentially either house some in, or even if the trends go down, we can close a pot. We only have to open 140 if we really wanted to. See what happens. But this is by far the most efficient design. Classification. When I started 20 years ago, Burl would come into the booking room, I'd call the control room, and they'd say, where do you have a bed? You got a bed in South Max. I'd walk you down and set you in a bed. We didn't care who was in South Max. We didn't care relatively of your condition, as long as there was a bed, that's where we put you, because that's how corrections was 20 years ago. It's not how it is anymore. In the last 5 years, the Department of Corrections mandated a lot of classification. We only house alike inmates. So if we have misdemeanor people, we put them together. GPs, what we call as a medium, we call them general population. We house them together. The GP are the 2 biggest tanks, because that is 80% of your correctional facility inmates is general population. And then we have what we used to call max custody, which is now called special management. We have to house all these separate. We have to house the females and the males. Each have their own classification level of each one of those. They all have to be housed separate. Currently, Itasca does not house the females separate as we should, because we don't have the space to do it. When a female has a court date out further than 2 weeks, or they get sentenced, we ship them wherever there's a bed. We just don't have the ability to hold them and classify them correctly. So now, the other day where somebody was saying, hey, I saw you only had 68 people in custody, you have 30 housed out, and we hold 107. So can you explain that? Classification did that to us. So the jail annex, when it was built, was min security softscape. We can only have min security in the jail annex. Well, currently we run about 18 male min security, because that's all we can get classified into it. So the GP inmates, that is our crux of our correctional facility, we're shipping out to the other places. So people go, well, how do you pick if Burl's min or he's GP or he's special management? We have a point system that the DOC has vetted for us. You come in, I look through your crim history, put down points, and assault gets you points, victim crimes get you points, your current charge gets you points, intoxication level gets you points. So we do an initial classification, and the number spits out what you are. That's how we house you. At the 72-hour mark, we reclassify you, because maybe now you're sober. Well, you lose a few points. You might go from special management down to GP, or from GP to min. At that point, that's pretty much a classification you're going to have unless you have a behavioral issue within the facility. And I know I'm getting long-winded.
No, keep going. I mean, I think this makes sense. Go ahead, Gary.
Couple questions. So the direct and indirect,
Yep.
capacity is 60, 60, 40, 40,
Yep.
but the real capacity is much less than that. So in the 60, if your figures before, you have 140 now, but you potentially could hold 200.
So roughly, the DOC has 2 things they call. We have our approved and our operational capacity. So the approved will be 200 beds. The operational is usually 20% less. And they do that, maintenance.
That's all I wanted there.
Yep.
You're not really going to have 60 people in there.
Not
I mean,
currently.
normal
I'm
circumstances.
hoping as classification gets more legs across the state, we fine tune it, that we're able to argue to get that 20% to 10, maybe to 5. Because if we're classifying correctly, we shouldn't need such a gap in between the 2.
Okay. Then the 2 direct, the 2 60/60s?
Yep.
Everybody's got their own cell.
They're double bunked.
Okay, they're individual cells.
They're
And
on the
then-
side, you get locked down at night.
And the next one, where you got this pie shape,
Yep.
how many are in a pie?
It can be 8, 10, 12, that, we haven't sat
And
down and
that's
come with that.
one area, so that's.
It's a day room, but they still have their cells in the back to be locked into.
In the pie,
Yes, so there's a day room and then the sleeping cells in each piece of the pie.
okay. And the person that's sitting out there can see all the way into all of the day rooms.
You can
or
see through the day
cell.
room into the cell. Sometimes you look through 3 or 4 pieces of glass to get to the back.
Okay, thank you.
How about questions for
And that
Lucas?
ability to classify is what makes it so that we can hold it better and meet that ratio better. And not only do they split it up with the classifications, but then you do have the gender thing, and I suppose you explained that already, where females have to monitor females, males have to monitor males. And it does make it tough, because in our linear style, like Lucas, did you explain where if you get one female in, and she has to be kept in one cell, she either has to be put in solitary confinement or occupy a big cell and take up all that space. So it does cause for classification issues in our current stuff.
Why aren't we using cameras on the jail cells?
We do use cameras, but they are reactive, not proactive. The DLC doesn't qualify them for jail checks or for any kind of supervision of inmates. So we use them for, as you go into a cell and somebody says something happens, we go back and review them. There's 3 or 4 staff working, we have over 200 cameras. So you have to hire 5 more staff, put them at a post just to watch cameras all day. Anything
And
else?
cameras usually help us solve what happened. It doesn't really prevent stuff from happening.
Well, right.
In your handout here, and if you guys haven't picked this all up, please take the gamut here. It does explain a little bit about what it costs to send people out of the county for jail, per night, so on and so forth, okay? Just so you're aware of it. Let's go on to our two where we're at today with the green and the orange. And Lucas hit on a little bit of our style of jail. The green site here, I guess I want to explain some things. The court, as we said, and the jail, you get your most savings when they are connected. All right? The state of Minnesota said to us we need to build a new jail. They didn't say we need to build a courthouse. They said jail. All right? Well, so let's say you build a jail, and you can build a jail anywhere because the courthouse controls where the county seat is, which gets difficult. But you could build a jail anywhere. Let's say we pick the jail to build it in the Rainbow parking lot. We buy the Rainbow, we tear it down, we build a jail. Just a jail. All right? So now I need Lucas staff to run the jail. Then I need Lucas staff to come back over to where we have the old jail, make a holding cell for them, so when they have to go to court, they're still in custody. So with that in mind, DOC said, to do that, I got to do all the upgrades that they have requested us to do. And some of them, I will tell you, I think is impossible. You want to upgrade some of the heating and air conditioning, the sewer, the water. Well, they're cast in concrete, they're in the pillars. I mean, I don't know how you're going to change that out and get it more air to some area. Plus then you'll have to add, I think there was 5 or 6 different areas that we are lacking in that old jail too. Recreational areas, blah, blah, blah. So if you're sitting in the holding cell for 6 hours to see the judge, we have to give you certain things: fresh air, light, exercise. If you decide you want to pray, you need to have a chapel. There's a bunch of things that we don't have. I mean, if you're going to spend that to remodel it to have a holding cell before you go to jail or go up to see the judge, that's not cost effective. So that's why we stuck with the concept of you need to have a courtroom and a jail connected. I just want you to understand how some of the task force thought. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that the judges have said to us lately. 9th District judges, we have 3. The 9th District says we need 3.8. I should say Itasca County is running 3.8 judges right now. We are on the verge of having a 4th judge. You asked earlier, sir, are we growing? Yeah, we're growing. Maybe not in the rest, but we're growing with our cases at that aspect. The judge's time is becoming longer and longer. So with that in mind, 9th District says you probably should get ready to have a 4th courtroom. All right? Right now we have 3. So in both of these drawings, the orange and the green, we have courtrooms. And kind of give you an idea, courtroom, hearing room, which is a courtroom. Over here, there's 2 courtrooms above the annex they've drawn in. Excuse me, right here they are. Here's the 2 courtrooms. That's on the 2nd floor. Then you'd have to imagine the 3rd floor is 3 more courtrooms, which they would do a remodel and make it down to 2. So you'd have a grand total of 4. So that is some of the expense that you will see different. You have a sheet here that kind of explains a little bit about money and how we break things out. I guess it's all in your packet here, and I'll just go through this a little bit. The orange new addition to the jail is about 38 million. Green site's 37 million. Remodeling of the jail, I'll kind of give you an idea. So this area here gets remodeled. That was your day jail. Above it gets added on. You do have to take away some of your old jail to help with the courtroom here. So the remodeling is about 4.2 million. New construction when it comes to courts on the orange side. So this costs, this right here, that's the 2 new courtrooms. That's 7.3 million. This here, excuse me, I'm gonna back up. This here is 21 million. There's a little difference there. I'll throw this at you so you understand the green site compared to the orange site. On the green site, you're adding, besides just courtrooms, I have county attorneys. I have the probation in there. I have all of the court admin in there too. Yeah, there's what I have at that point. Am I missing one? No, I'm not. Okay. So basically, if you have probation, this is where you'd be going. Lawyers would be there too, since they spend most of their time in the courthouse anyways, dealing with cases all the time. I guess I don't know exactly what the $177,000 was for. It says remodeling.
It's the connection of the 3rd floor elevator to the current courts on the orange. So you can get to the 3rd floor courts, so connecting to the buildings 100.
Okay, so we're doing a secure hallway and an elevator there to get to the 3rd floor courts. Law enforcement center on the green side. There is no. The sheriff's department stays in the orange design where it's at. The law enforcement here on the green site is about let's round it up to 6 million. It's 5.9 million, but that's where that is at that point in time. Site development, and this is where so there. I can give you the orange, and we've been handing this out for weeks now. It does get updated periodically when we get a better number, but building demo. So on the orange site, we have to purchase 3 buildings for sure, possibly 4. Right now, you're drawn in at 3 buildings. You have the fire department, you have, I call it the old bus garage, but there's a carpet sales center in here, and then you have the dry cleaner here. So you got building demo, you got to wreck these 3. Hazard material, that's 74,000. So building demo, they estimated at 282. Hazmat, you want to call it asbestos, that's 74,000. Relocate some utilities, they have 50,000 in there right now. And then there's some bad soil. So you got contaminated soil. So the old dry cleaner used to be a gas station back in the 40s and 50s and maybe earlier than that. There's some bad dirt there. Estimate right now at $531,000. Just found out there's a 6,000 gallon heating fuel tank in this fire hall that you eventually have to deal with too. Price tags for land. So I want to go right to the green site. It says to be determined. True. We have to find a piece of land. I think.
Bro, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
What about all this tax forfeited land? I mean, to have to purchase land when you've got all this tax forfeit land that the county owns right now?
Yeah, I'll give you some ideas how to bring some of that down and talk about that, if you don't mind, Monty.
Right.
In just a little bit, I'll throw you some ideas. But land acquisition right now, on the green side, I will tell you these 3 pieces of property: the fire hall, the bus garage, or the carpet place right here, and then right here is the dry cleaner. Right now, estimated cost on that is 3.1 million, going to be 3.2 million close. If I'm rounding up, it's 3.2 million. On the orange side. On the green side, there is no price tag yet. I tell you that we are dealing and looking for pieces of property. If any of you watched the meeting last week, I introduced a number of 500,000 or less. The board didn't like that idea of putting that number in because it was an estimate. Well, no, hey, $3.2 million is a guess. So, could go higher, could go lower. If you want me to bet 20 bucks with you, I'm gonna tell you it's gonna be higher.
Especially with my guys really wants it.
It isn't. So, but now, Monty, you kind of asked a question that I've explained once before, and I'll explain it again to you. On the green site, there's a couple of things that would go on with the green site. It's not capable at all to have it happen with the orange site. All right? And how to save some money and how to relieve some of our taxpayers' burden to this. You're going to have to kind of follow me because it's a sequence of things, all right? All right. So, the Pomida building, or the Health and Human Services building, all right? The structure is good, got a brand new roof. Yes, it does need a paint job. You know, HVAC's in that building been updated, you know, in the last 8 years. Maybe I have an expert here. When's the last time you updated them? Did you update them?
No, we didn't.
Okay, all right, sorry. I didn't know. You do about 90%. So, so the bones are good. The structure but the structure ain't worth no money. And why do I say it's not worth no money? Well, first off, it's retail. It used to be the old Pomida building. All right, well, can't see the old Pomida building from the main drag anymore. It's hid behind, a shopping mall, behind Hardee's, so on and so forth. You get little glimpses of it, but got to go through a parking lot to get to their parking lot. it doesn't have much value, in my mind, all right? At the end of Kmart's life, you could have bought Kmart for $1.8 million, and that came with 12 acres of land. You could have bought the old lumber yard where Hardee's and now Aldi's sit. You could have bought that for $1.2 million. All right, so I kind of give you an idea of the price tags that have been floating out there. So I thought the best use of the Palmyra building was to do some shifting. So everything in the Palmyra building basically, or Health and Human Service building, I apologize, is basically, you know, divided into three. You got Health and Human Services, you have Head Start, and then you have IM Care. All right? Head Start, my understanding is going to get one of the schools. I presume the Murphy School. All right? IM Care is funded by the state and the feds. They rent. They can go rent another place. I have a building in mind. I'll tell you about that in a second. Health and Human Services, and we did a case analysis with that. And you can go online and download any of this off the county county website. But we did a space analysis of the old courthouse in, you know, part of the sheriff's department. The Health and Human Services would gain 8,000 more square feet to move into by moving into this building, the old courthouse. So now what goes into the Palmyra building? Or I apologize again. What goes into the Health and Human Services building? Well, my idea was this. You take the land department, which is over in La Prairie at this point in time, right next to, if you guys know where Schwartz is at, over in that area. Okay, right next to that, there's a yellow building there, that's the land department. It's 6 acres of land, it's all fenced. I think that piece of property's got some value to it. I think that there might be some builders and or construction style companies that have high interest in that. So I think there might be some value there. There's a chunk of land right behind the Holiday Station. There's a red building. I don't know if you guys ever noticed it before, right next to Burger King. You know, it's a 40 by 60 building. It's basically housed search and rescue and some of the surveyor stuff. But I think that has some value to sell. All right? And the other one is Northside Lumber. So the old Northside Lumber up by the arena. That's 4 acres of property. It does butt up to the lake. That's being used as an impound. I think that you have some renters there, but you know, it's the state patrol, that kind of stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay?
Not anymore. It houses the search and rescue and all of our boat and water equipment.
Okay, so.
And the SWAT team is in the front building.
All right. So that could be sold. That'd be more like, you know, be it multi-housing or well, right across the lake you see a multi-housing 55 plus apartment. That would make sense. And I'm going to tell you that right now there's 4 developers snooping around Grand Rapids looking for big pieces of land to build multi-housing units. Not, you know, this is market rate stuff. I'm not, well, some, I shouldn't say that. Some are subsidized, a couple of them are market rate. So with that in mind, you're selling 3 pieces of property. You know, you're trying to bring it down. 4th piece of property I'll talk about is the nursing home. Should we own that? Should we be in that business? There's only 2 nursing homes in the whole state of Minnesota that are owned by the counties. You know, right now, I think it's the first time in, I don't know, 15 years that it's made money. You know, when you're making money, it's time to sell. Personally. You're not going to make no money when you're not making no money. So I just kind of look at you at that aspect. Now, you talked about tax forfeited land. So Itasca County is in charge of 300,000 acres of tax forfeited land. And that's one option. Yep. And we have, and the county owns about 4,000 acres, give or take, that the county owns itself. Now, that 4,000 acres is a lot easier to sell than the tax forfeited land. Okay? But tax forfeited land, so so here we are in beautiful Blackberry Township. You have tax forfeited, you know, 40 acres, and the county wants to sell it. All right. So here's how it breaks out. You know, county's going to get 50%. whatever school district fit in, if it's in the Greenway or in Grand Rapids, whatever it is, they're gonna get 25%. And then the township's gonna get 25%. That's how it basically breaks down. There's another formula of 40, 40, 20, but, you know, you don't get, the county does not get 100% to bring that down, it gets spread out. All right, but it is still sellable, and then it goes back on to the tax rolls and you know, creates taxes for us to help us bring down the levy on that aspect too. So I hear what you're saying, Monty, right to a T. We are still looking at that. I don't have problems with that, for all of you to understand. So the Chippewa National Forest has about 400,000 acres of their land in our county. The DNR has about 300,000 acres of land in our county. We have 300,000 acres of tax forfeited land. Now if I'm going to start adding in, you know, be it Blandon's got 160,000 acres of land in our county. Geez, Ryla's got 30. I'm not even going to start with U.S. Steel or any of the other mining companies or Mopus or Potlatch or any of that. I'll kind of give you an idea. The total amount of land, what is it, 3 million acres we have here? How many acres we have in this county? 3 million?
A lot.
Okay.
And the USDA is the biggest land.
27% of the land in our county pays property tax.
How much?
27%.
Paid property tax, that's all the paid property tax, 27%?
Pretty much, yep. Out of that, 40% of our population pays it. Out of that, 4/5, so if you got a $5 bill, 4 of those dollars are being paid from District 4, which you're in. So, as my buddy over here giving me crap about Mike has realty, yeah, but we are paying $4 for every $5 that the county brings in property tax.
Why is that?
Why is that? Because that's where most of the value is, at least that is assessed.
Most of the
Assessed.
people are here in this part.
Right. So, you know, within the city of Grand Rapids is about 10,000 people. If you draw a 20-mile radius, you got about 30,000 people. Then the other 15,000 lives 20 miles out. How's that? So, out of that 45,000, you know, I don't take this in a bad way, but so you got under 18, you have over 65 fixed income, so on and so forth. You have some that just don't pay taxes, as we talked a little bit about earlier. But so you're really down to 40% of the population that pays tax. You know, it's the best way to kind of throw it at you, and being blunt and straightforward and straight with you. All right, all right. So, how about questions on the orange or the green that we have here so far? Yeah, any hard questions about either one of them? Yes, sir.
On the green,
Yeah.
will the dispatch,
No.
no.
Move.
Okay.
No. That's going
No.
to stay at the airport,
Okay.
the old airport. You know, all the infrastructure that was put in there and so on. It's no.
Okay.
No. Not at this point in time. No. Who else had a question? Yes, sir.
No, it was my understanding that they want to put out a 1% tax.
Yep. You want to get to that point?
I read about it in there.
Oh, well, let me explain it to other people who haven't read it. So basically you have two ways of paying for a jail. You can put it on your property tax, or you can pay it with a sales tax. So there's 4 kinds of bonding. You basically have to take a bond out to get the loan. If you want to call it the loan, it's a bond. And then how do you pay the bond? And the bond is paid in either or, property tax or sales tax. So there's, and I know 3 of them off the top of my head. So you got a GO bond, general obligation bond, which you're able to build this kind of concept, either one. If you had just a jail, there's a jail style bond, then all you can do is build just that, you know, or just this. Not this, not that, not any of the courts, you know. I'm gonna tell you that the interest rate's higher on that one. Then you have an HRA style bond, and I'm gonna tell you that one is more like you would hire me, I would build it for you, you will lease it from me. I'm going to tell you that's probably not a good idea because I'm going to probably want more money in the end at the 5-year marker, 7-year marker, 9-year marker, 12-year marker. So interest rates much higher. There's my suggestion there. You will have to pay for that by a property tax. I don't think that is allowed through a sales tax. I could be wrong though. So you have basically 4 different kinds. I forget the 4th one, forgive me. But you have 4 different kinds of bonds that you can pull to help pay for this. Now how are you going to pay for it? Am I going to tax you on your property? Or am I going to do a 1% sales tax? So there has been a couple of studies done, one by the U of M and one by Deed. And it showed basically this is if you do a sales tax side of things, 58% of that dollar will be paid from an outside person that's not living in Itasca County. All right. So our last year, Itasca County made, I should say the state of Minnesota said that we paid in $400 million in sales tax. Well, 1% is $4 million. Okay? A bond, if we built a jail for $70 million, did a 30-year trip on it, it's about $2.5 million a year for a payment. Well, they're saying right now that we could make up to $4 million on a 1% sales tax. Okay, so we would cover that payment pretty easily. Now, that's 58% out of town, and the rest would be us Itasca County people. So if you want to round it up to 60%, so 40, 60, it's not a bad way of going about it. So,
But Burl, also legislatively, that sales tax option that's allowed for a correctional facility, if our bond payment's 2.5 million and we generate 4, that fund is dedicated for the correctional facility. The funds can't be used for any outside sources.
we paid down,
And
we
what
paid down
happens
quick.
is, the timeline on this loan is, the county had to ask for 75 million and 30 years. Because we can go down, we can't go up. So when they proposed the legislation, we're asking for these to cover our project. The final determination will be the amount of the bond, the amount of the payment, and the rate it's going to be paid down. If the bond is paid off quicker, tax ends. If the clock runs out, the tax ends. And it's only for committing those dollars to that project. And the state will monitor that whatever funds are collected are dedicated only to the bond payment on the correctional facility we build. So this tax ends one way or the other. A lot of people are like, you know, geez, once you put a tax on, it's there forever. This one ends, and the only way to reestablish it is to bring it back to the vote with an explanation of what the purpose of it is.
Sure.
So,
That making sense to you? Beautiful, okay, go ahead.
Going to the school,
Yeah.
could that school be paid through a sales tax, 1%
No.
sales tax, or is that a different type of a loan?
Different.
and it's different because the school district, different than the county, with public safety dollars, basically has to levy to build this public safety center, or the jail. And I say public safety center because I want to address the court's needs, but at the end of the day, our job is to fix what's wrong with this correctional facility. So when we talk about that, the county commissioners have full authority to bond, put it on over 35 years, and pay for that jail without asking anybody. The strategy we're trying to use is to talk to as many people as we possibly can and have them help us decide how we're gonna do this. Because them five guys, anybody who would make that decision without involving as much public input as you physically possibly can,
I won't do that, sir.
you have to do what we're doing right now.
No.
And we're going around every little community, every little coffee group, every Rotary Club, every township group. Tell us what we're doing here.
This is the first time I heard the 1%. Anyway, you only see what's in the paper.
Oh, they haven't reported it? Okay.
No, the paper didn't even tell me when my meeting was up north until Wednesday paper, and it was Wednesday night, and I couldn't get to it.
Sure.
So that's why I had to
And
come down here.
kind of off topic, and this is a true challenge, because they asked us this in Squaw Lake. What is a true media anymore that we can get to everybody on?
Yeah.
Used to be the papers, the Deer River paper dropped off, now there's kind of
Oh,
a big void going that way.
ICTV is wonderful.
ICTV does it, but not everybody gets it.
Yeah, not everybody gets it.
No,
I
I
watched
got
it
it on DirecTV.
I watched it all on their website.
And you wanna know another thing people say, we'll put it on social media. How many people in here actively look at social media? God bless you. I mean, it's like, not a lot of people see it regularly. So Squaw Lake said, when you have your final plan, how are you gonna get it to them? Well, one way is to do just basically a mass mailing based on your registered voters and send that sheet to every household. So you're opening a thing that says important tax information enclosed. So when you get it, you open it up to read, okay, what are they doing now? But we have to figure out what's the best way to get the word out, because it is not the same as it used to be.
It's gonna take a few months to get the word out. I mean,
It is, sir, yep. And so what, the situation we have here, we're trying to reach as much people as possible in all different variety of ways, and we're trying to, I mean, we have to be transparent with you. I just said to you, I don't want to make decisions that way. Yeah, I got the power to put a CIP on there and not ask your opinion. Go out and play in the highway. I mean, that's where I'd be. Dodge a truck or two. That's suicide. That's not a good way of doing business, nor am I representing you or anybody else in this county very well. That's not how we're at. I mean, I want to go back a little bit to
You got a question here?
to Vic. Well,
Finish up.
Okay, I want a little bit back to Vic. Before we can do a sales tax, we have to go down to the state of Minnesota and get the blessing from the legislators saying we can do that. So we're down there right now. Well, we're down there right now. Don't get me wrong, every city, every county, there's 3 counties right now that got sunset letters. Carlton County, Lake of the Woods, and us, saying we got to do something. There's 20 some odd cities trying to go after a sales tax for whatever reasons they got going, but they still have to get the okay. City of Grand Rapids is doing it right now for the hockey arena. So they're down there trying to get the blessing too of the state. So then we have to come in front of you, and you have to vote on it.
do you have, is there political gain down there for them not to give you that and make you do it in property tax? Do you have to go down there and suck up to them? I mean, are they playing games politically with it? When you should be able to go down and say, we want to put a 1% sales tax on, and we're good with it. Or do the politicians down there jerk you around, jerk us around and
My
say, no,
thing
we're
is,
gonna
I think, my opinion of it is, and this would be on TV,
have permission to run our
my
own
opinion of
county.
it is that our project, our sales tax, should be our decision.
Exactly.
And the vote from here should dictate to the legislators what their decision is. If the people here say, this is our best way to pay for this, we want to do it. But today in the county board meeting, Leo Trump pointed out that for years, the federal revenue source was income tax. The
Right.
state revenue's main source was sales tax. The county and grassroots was property tax. And they almost guard that sales tax because it's their form of
Well, they
revenue.
probably want a piece.
So as we use them as a tool or a mechanism to help with our projects, it's kind of like,
Mafia.
or it's kind of cutting in on their stuff.
Right.
But I
Okay,
mean, that gets difficult.
you had a question, sir, go ahead.
With the city going to come along and propose their 1% also?
City of Grand Rapids,
Yes.
for their special project, yep.
And the county's going to come and propose. What do all the businesses think of getting, or it shouldn't be so much the business, but a business can't absorb that, they have to charge that off to their customer in the end.
It's a pass-through. I mean, it truly is a
But
pass-through.
what's,
Yeah.
has anybody thought about what's gonna happen to the economy?
Yeah.
I guess
Sure.
that's my point.
Yeah, no, so, both, and I'll be honest with you, our county is basically an island, surrounded by sales tax. Every county around us has it.
Is this 1% a city or a county?
Ours would be,
We're
the
asking-
city's going after an independent one to address their roof deal on the civics.
So you'd be looking at a 9% tax
Yeah.
on you buy anything uptown.
The city tried it a couple of years ago, put a 0.5% on it.
Right, so the city has something very similar. They're asking for 1%, to help fix their hockey arena, all right?
So,
And us, the county is asking for 1% to build a new,
Does,
yeah,
so then
new
how-
safety center.
Another 2%?
does their
So-
1% sunset when it's done? Or do they just keep living on that, the city?
They are different than us. I don't know their law or their guidelines like I know the county's guideline. I know the county is, when I put something on, it's on for this, and it's on for this year, this total max year. If I can pay it off early, it's gone, or if the time runs out, it's gone. I can't, well, anybody work for the school district right now? Okay, all right. I can't act like the school district where I can roll something, well, this bond's done with, well, no, I'm gonna roll it
Yeah, I
into
mean,
something
that's-
new. I can't do
Your
that.
classic government,
Okay.
once the tax is in, you'll never get rid of it again.
Well, and
Well,
and
that's what people
that's
think.
the worry
So
on
there's
that.
different rules for the three classifications. The school district has a different rule
Same.
than what the city has, than what the county has, all right?
And that's
So-
what we work with under the jail
Yeah.
setting. The thing that you have with these projects is, I think what they'll do is if you have competing taxes in the same population like us in the Grand Rapids city tax, they'll look at the impact of the project. And they're gonna look at this, and they're gonna look at a $11 million project or a roof project, and they're gonna look at a state mandated correctional facility for $60 million. And if what we're being hit with doesn't outweigh the roof on this one, I mean, those legislators have to weigh, what are they trying to affect here? This is something that's gonna hurt every taxpayer in Itasca County, especially if we're forced to levy it. And if we're forced to levy that dollars, I don't know, I watch people and what they're facing, so it's like, you feel like the Grim Reaper when you walk around trying to talk about this thing. So now this sales tax option, they're looking at different ways of maybe to maneuver it. Well, maybe theirs would start, and our jail project would take 24 months, and theirs would fall off before ours started. There's things they're looking at trying to strategize. But like you said, what is driven, what is their purpose, and what is their timeline they're attaching to their tax? Because if they're truly going to attach a timeline to their tax to do a project, and not just leave it open-ended, and I don't think they allow for that anymore.
Well,
This jail
it
one
is.
is by law,
I'm
it
gonna be-
defines how it can be used. But
I'm gonna be
the other-
honest. My brain is strictly on a county situation I have going on, not the ice arena. I'm sorry, I'm dealing with a jail, and I'm trying to deal with the jail, and what the city wants to
But it does
do.
worry us because
city
there are
can-
competing
yeah.
taxes, and it does
Right.
make our conversation more difficult.
And I'll talk a little bit more of that, you go ahead first.
Okay, so we got.
Two options.
Minnesota is forcing us to do this, right? Or whoever,
Yep.
the feds,
Yep.
whatever, making us build
No,
the new
Department of
jail.
Corrections, correct?
Yes. Do they have any money they can?
$0 in the game.
Well,
Zero.
Well, tell them, no then. What
And
are they
then,
doing?
okay, then they take away your license, and then it's gonna cost you between, well, I'll take an estimated $3 million on average. It will go up, 6% growth, remember. It will go up. Probably need to buy a dozen cars, hire another dozen people, because you're gonna be transporting. I'm just telling you the realities, yep. So all of a sudden you'll be at 3, then you'll be at 3.5, then you're gonna be at 4 million every year, and I gotta take that off your property tax. I can't do a sales tax to allow you to do the transport. So I'm gonna jack your taxes because we gotta do that. Fair warn you, I mean, there's reality.
And they offer nothing.
They make you do it, but they offer nothing for finance.
Now, I will tell you, so the federal level, we do have Mr. Stauber looking at it and trying to find funds for us. We have been in communication talks with a couple of reservations, that lake, Leech Lake, to try to, because they can get different funding than we can, but we're still talking.
What about private funding building and running that?
So that's like an HRA, that's like the HRA style I talked about. You can't paint Pepsi on the side and think you're gonna get a discount, no, can't do that. But I just, so like the HRA bonding style is where, you know, here you are and I'm gonna lease my brand new jail from you, the builder, the person who put up all the money. I'm just gonna tell you that's probably not a great business plan.
It didn't cost the taxpayer anything at the time. It cost them 70 million up front.
Oh, you'll be making a hefty payment. Oh, yeah, no.
See, no, you sitting in the front remind me of the day I got this letter. Because the day I got this letter and I tore it open, and I'm reading this letter after he's standing in the corner with his knee bouncing just like that. And I'm reading this letter and I went, well, what about no? Well, what about no? And it seemed like everywhere we turned, we're being forced down this lane.
Yep.
Because we're to the point of no return. And it's not by anybody's fault. I don't point the fingers at anybody. I don't point. The board, I give a little help because they could have been fixing this as they went, but we're not going to talk about the can being kicked. And
They could have fixed it in 2007 for
But
7.5 million.
that would have been
They decided not to do it.
fixing it because
So.
we'd still be addressing the needs right now of the old linear style jail. So right now, if they would have done 7 million back then, we may have been upgrading a secure facility, trying to build a more secure facility, because one of the things that hurts us is when I have to house people out, they don't take my bad guys. They take my minimum security people because they don't want the hassle of
The easy
more
ones.
trouble.
Yeah.
So what that hurts for me as the sheriff is my jail work crew can't qualify people to go out and help the cemeteries and paint the hockey rinks and work off their time. Where we've had people and businesses come in and looking for people to work afternoon shifts in the jail, give them a job. But the people that could fill those or be working their sentences off are in Mille Lacs County.
Right.
And our people who can't be released are what we're left with to house, because those are the ones we retain and we put our minimum security people all over the state.
You don't mind,
So that's hurt the programs to help people work their stuff off.
You're coming up, you had your hand up, sir, go ahead.
Yep, back on the, earlier in this meeting, back on the orange plan,
Yep,
buying that block there where
Yeah.
the fire department is,
yeah.
you said this Grand Rapids is not interested in selling that?
Well, in the beginning, sir, they were not interested in selling when we first started the task force, the jails task force. That was one of the first questions we asked the city. You know, because we looked at the old jail, then the next, which to us didn't make sense to spending the money. So then you looked at the west side of the jail. And at that time, the city said they weren't interested in selling us the fire hall. Well, the size that you need to do what we need, we gotta have it, you know. So then we went to the east side. So now the orange site has only been around for what, a month and a half, Vic, or give or take. I mean, the jails task force, we didn't vet this out. This was done by a couple of commissioners and a city administrator and the mayor. I'm going to tell you that price tag, just for that, you just asked me that question, that's 2.5 million.
Well,
So you got to buy the other buildings.
as far as well,
Yep.
that was Northern City and Grand Rapids, how they were. Now, they gotta build a new fire department.
Correct?
Who's gonna pay for that?
That's
And
passing.
my gut tells me it ain't going to be done for 2.5 million, but
No, it's gonna be way more than it is now. It's
possible. They might be able to do it for 2.5 million. I don't know that. I'm not privy to that. I just telling you that there's the price tag that I've been told.
So essentially, we're passing the burden.
Yeah, eminent domain, yeah. That's like playing on the highway again, dodging semis.
So in
Yeah.
other words, you know, if the orange plan goes through for whatever reason, if it does, whatever, then we're facing some more increase in city taxes.
To cover that,
Building fire
to cover
department.
new fire department.
Your township here went up how much on fire safety?
I don't, Lisa, how much?
That I don't know.
I don't
Oh.
know.
The board members are.
Harris Township
in
got
the
a,
meeting.
got a $30,000 uptick
I know it went
a
up
month and a
considerably.
half ago.
I know,
Huh?
My wife said it went up considerably here.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna tell you what Harris Township went up, I know that, they told me, our last meeting, that went up 30 grand. So they're running just shy of $100,000 a year for fire protection of that township. And I don't know what it is here, but it's getting really close in that area for Harris Township. So, you know, they just did $360,000 worth of remodel on that building too. But I'm not a city council member, I'm a county commissioner, and I worry about my county. This city of Grand Rapids is one city of many in our county.
Right,
So-
but most of us, you know,
Yep,
we deal in Grand Rapids.
right, well, that's the hub. I mean, yeah, no, that's the hub.
Where there were jobs.
Right. I mean, people know where Grand Rapids is a lot easier than they know where Talmoon is.
And when they,
You know.
when we get into something like that, where whenever you dig into something and you're demoing, especially in a downtown area,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're gonna find. And we already know that below the one building that we're gonna have to mitigate because it was an old gas station.
Well, that gas station was in operation right after the 70s.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we know there's a fuel infiltration under it, we gotta take care of it.
You don't mind, ma'am, hang on, I'll come right back to you. Go ahead,
So
Steve.
this 1% tax, so if it goes down to the state, and they say,
No?
go,
Oh, they say yes?
yes. So
Okay.
now, do you gotta put it out to vote?
Yep. So what happens is then in November we'll have and I'll put it in very simple layman's terms, is this. In November, we'll have it on the ballot for you, all of you.
Explained very well.
Yep, it'll be explained, very explained as best as English.
Because they
You
only
don't
give
want me
you
to
so
write,
many words to put on the ballot.
right, you don't want me to write the question, but it'll be basically say this, Steve, it'll say, hey, how would you like to pay for your new jail? And I'm putting this in layman's terms. How would you like to pay for your new jail? Would you like to pay with property tax? Or would you like to pay with a 1% sales tax? Now, it might get in a little bit more detail saying, hey, you know, I don't know, 40% of the people, you know, or this or that, or, I doubt it. I doubt it. I think it'll be kind of more of a blasé.
Burl, I
You want
think
to-
the proposed question will simply be a 1% sales tax for correctional facility option, yes or no?
Oh,
And we basically have to educate people that saying no results in us having to figure out how to levy for it.
oh. So it'll be,
CIP it.
you'll pay one way or the other, property tax or sales
They
tax.
say no on property tax, the state down there in the city say no on property, on the sales tax.
Right.
You have to do property tax.
Yeah, then I'm left with property tax is my only option. I can go back and ask for sales tax again the next year or the next year or the next year, but you're stuck that first year. If they say no this year, I'm stuck with it. I gotta wait until the next November and the next November to see if I can pass a sales tax. Yes,
But to clarify, you said when? The deadline was January 31st to submit the package. The county got the package in.
yeah, we got it in on time, but it really kind of comes down to you in November on when you vote. How do you wanna vote?
But the
As
state
a-
has gotta say, go ahead.
Correct. They have to give it the rubber stamp, okay. Exactly. Lisa?
They have to
And if
pass
we-
a special tax legislation this year because it's a non-tax year. So we're down there right now, we're really lobbying them to say, you gotta present this because we're in a crunch.
So you asked earlier, you know, are we down there whining and dining them? Well, I won't say we're whining and dining them. Are we talking to them all? You bet.
If you have a
Yeah, I'm not bringing cookies, I'm not bringing cookies to them, but we are sitting down and talking. You bet.
If you believe in that, you gotta
Yep.
tell them, because
Yep.
that's what they react to.
Right.
So if I understand correctly, if we vote yes in November, it doesn't mean that the board will actually use that. It means you have the option.
You have the option. Right,
We want to make sure that you have as many options to
Right.
choose from as possible.
right. I don't want to be stuck with only being, looking at you and saying, oh, you're my taxpayer, you're my property owner, you need to pay for this, and that's the only people who are gonna pay.
Correct.
Sales tax,
Portions.
just so you guys understand, sales tax isn't on new cars, it's not on your grocery bill, you know, it's not on clothing, it's none of that. But if you go to the Timberlake, or you go stay overnight at Super 8, or you go to Forest Lake and you have dinner, yeah, you're gonna pay 1%, you're gonna pay 1% sales tax. Duluth has 13%.
Yeah, it's not,
kind of give you an idea. If you're up in Hermantown and you stay overnight, you might be more closer to 18%. Just let you know.
Is it on
Yep.
like the phone, electric, and like your fuel oil, LP gas?
For what?
With 1%?
1% tax.
Whatever the sales tax applies to by Minnesota law, and
I
it
don't
does
know.
cover most of them.
I don't know that answer.
Home heating fuel covers.
It doesn't apply to luxury items, vehicles.
And no
Major purchases, it does not.
No boats, no,
Your house,
no.
food.
But that's a
No,
good,
no.
that's a good thing to add to
I
the
don't know.
explanation of what does this affect and what
Yeah.
commodities will be hit.
I don't know if it affects fuel oil and your electric bill and,
What about just
Oh.
gas at the, all day or pump gas?
Yeah.
Everyday
Yeah.
gas.
yep, I think you'll pay the 1%.
And that's where the out-of-towners pay the majority of it.
Yes,
Gas
yeah.
for-
Yeah.
Well, that,
You
that's
gain
a
a
lot.
lot there.
Correct.
I do have a question here, Earl.
Yeah, go ahead.
On this,
Sure.
maybe the-
So, and Lucas might be able to answer this better. So this is the out of home, we'll call it out of home placement for our prisoners.
Is this stating?
Sorry.
What you're trying to get on this one here, Lucas, is this if we don't do nothing,
Yep,
this is what's gonna cost to something
That's the bare minimum.
bare minimum dollar.
2.5 approximately per year if we don't do nothing.
Yep, which is about
I don't take
a
long to
$70
build
million
up.
bond payment. And I'm gonna tell you, add 6% growth to it, you'll be pushing 3 million, 3.5 for,
The board
For
You'll
one
be-
year, it keeps going up.
every year it'll go up.
So we're actually throwing the money out the window.
Correct.
But the board wanted everybody to know that there are other options, i.e. do
Yeah.
nothing.
Yep.
So
Right.
we wanted to show the financial impact of it.
Yep. I just wanted to make sure if it was a year or.
All right, I'm gonna get a little bit more in depth where I think
Very
as a,
conservative number.
I think as a commissioner, you might see some extra added dollars or subtracted dollars that we haven't talked about or you don't see here on your piece of paper. Okay? I'll use the green site first off. As you know, I need to buy a chunk of land. I should say we, the county needs to buy a chunk of land. I think that you need to add basically about $1 million into that figure to remodel the third floor to when the Health and Human Services comes in to that building, you're going to need to add more power, you're going to need to add more telephone lines, you're going to need to add better Wi-Fi, and you need to upgrade the ladies' bathroom in a bad way. Okay, so you need to add some amenities. You need to make it ADA compliant too. All right. I put $300,000 in an idea form that would remodel the old Palmyra building, the Health and Human Service building, to help house part of Vic's department, part of the land department, basically fence the parking lot, add a handful of garage doors to use that building properly, store his stuff inside out of the weather. You know, don't get me wrong, the impound cars are going to be over here in a fenced-in area. I added $650,000 to both areas, because both green and orange, because no matter what you do, no matter where you land this new jail, you're going to have to upgrade security in this building. I mean, you got to. I mean, let's be honest. In your 9th district, we talked a little bit about the 9th district court. Those, the judges are telling you, I have to have a secure place. My people that are coming to court need to be in a safe area. We're not there today, to be honest with you. So I put $650,000 into that, no matter what, orange or green, to fix some of our safety stuff. I'm going to tell you it's a must. I'm going to tell you that the courts tell you it's a must. And if you, be honest with you too, the 9th district, the court has the power to give you a sunset letter and force you, if they want to, and force you to handle upgrading their courts. Our judges haven't done that yet. They've hinted on it. and they've hinted really, really hard. I'll be right to you. But, so with that in mind, I'm gonna tell you, there'll be new numbers coming out on this site, on the Orange site, about how to upgrade some of this third floor. You know, will the price tag be, well, we used to have a blue idea, we called it the blue site. It was took in this building here, but it had a number in here to remodel it at 7.5 million. I think you can get it done cheaper than that. I think so. I don't know the number yet. We'll find out, but I'm gonna tell you. So when you look at courts and remodeling, that 177, I think you're gonna go up in the price tag. How much? I don't know. Your property for that Orange, I think is gonna cost you a little bit more than what you're seeing. That's my bet. I won't bet you a lot of money on it, but my bet is it's going to cost you more money than what you're looking at. You know, I'm going to tell you this. This person owns this building. I don't know. If I owned it, you're going to have to buy both, or you ain't buying one. Because that'd be me. That would just be me if I owned that building. That's what I would force. I don't know. You want to own a building next to a jail, 2-story jail? I don't know. But I'm just throwing it at you. And I'm going to tell you one of the things that, as a commissioner, if we do decide to go to the Orange, I'm going to tell my other commissioners, you should buy that building, because right now you have no growth. What happens in 20 years from now? They say, you know, you need to have another 40 rooms, 40 jail cells. Where am I going to go if I don't have the room? And what do you think that price of that building is going to be 20 years from now, or 10 years from now, or whatever it might be? Now you look at, we're dealing with a 12-year gap between 7.5 million and now we're at 54 million. So 5 times, when you think about it that way. So now, you know, the green site, I think you should be able to buy a piece of property. You know, I put in $500,000 in my one talk here last week. I think you should be underneath that 250 range, realistically. So that's just me. So these numbers will change. Will they get closer? Yeah, that's my guess. How close will be interesting to find out. Timeline. Timeline is really, this county board needs to make decisions by mid-March. 3rd week of March, you better be able to make some decisions where you want to go. Want to go green? Or you want to go orange? And then we better crunch numbers and have realistic numbers, so I can look at you in the eye and say, you know what, it's going to be 64 million. And you're shooting for it.
How long do they have to get this done?
Well, our sunset letter says September 1st, 2021. If you have stuff being built, and by being built, I don't mean having you, Steve, digging in water and sewer. I mean where there's walls up and we're installing, you know, cages and jail cells. We gotta be at least 50% built at the time of that date hits.
It doesn't have to be 100% complete.
No, it does not. You won't make it. You won't make it, as you know, building big buildings, it takes time. I mean, it's a year, it's 14 months. Average time on a jail is 2 years. Now, did I miss anything, Lucas? I'm looking at you. Lucas is an expert when it comes to jails. No, all right.
No, but as long as the Department of Corrections says we have substantial progress, they will give us extensions. It could be 3 months, it could be 1 month, it could be 6 months.
Whatever they feel.
Depending on how they feel
Right.
we're moving forward. Now, see, some of the different parts between this and, like back in the day when the annex was done, you had an architect do it, builders came in, they built it, we occupied it. The DOC didn't do anything with the plans or anything. That doesn't happen anymore. The Department of Corrections, after we get schematic design done from the architect, gets up to 90 days to review the plan. They said they can do it in a month. I think it'll take longer, but they'll review it all and say, no,
you did something wrong, this didn't work for this jail. They want to make sure what you build is actually efficient and effective instead of making you as a county guess, because how many times you've built a jail. And both of these concepts, the support features, so your programs, your medical, your food service, and your laundry are all built for the 2 additional pods. So instead of 200, it's built for 320. Reason being, making these bigger in the future is very cost prohibitive on you guys. Well, just adding the housing units is relatively cheap. So we're trying to plan ahead that if, and I've been touting, jail, the life expectancy of the jail is only supposed to be 24 years on linear. We got 37 out of ours. With the new designs, the DOC and myself are trying to tout, we should be able to get 50 years out of that tree. Now, you might have to add a pod, you might have to add 2, but the main part of the structure should be good for around 50 years.
No, Steve, we built hotels together. You know how long that takes, and I gotta get a rubber stamp from the state. You know, you gotta do that with your plumbing deal too. I mean, you dealt with the state just on your plumbing. You know how long that takes to get a rubber stamp. All right, so, you know, you are a very seasoned veteran when it comes to building these kind of buildings. I figure fast, we could do it in 16 months. Realistically, it's gonna be 2 years. You might get away with 20, but we built the Timberlake in 10, but you know what Kraken is. So, you know, I guess I will tell you with Lucas's comment, you know, 50-year concept, we still think this is a 50-year concept too. You're just taking this and attaching it onto a 70-year-old house. That's all. That's the difference. You got all brand new and you're attaching it to an older structure. So.
What do you do with when it's unoccupied? What do you do with it?
So like, let's say this here is unoccupied.
The old jail.
Oh, the old jail. So part of the deal with the ideas was this: if, you know, we move Health and Human Services in on the 3rd floor and part of the 2nd, you know, they can use part of this area down in the 1st floor and part of the sheriff's department on 1st floor, and the jail is really on 2nd floor. So you could use the old jail. We're always short on storage. There's a couple of rooms up there you could use for maybe a different purpose than storage. But that's the first thing I would tell you. Part of the problem with his jail, there's a sewer problem there. Well, the basement has flooded now twice in the last 5 years. And I mean by flood, you know, in its sewage. I mean, it over my ankle, below my knee, but it's sewage. So we could take, we could take some of, what's that?
It would all be county.
Oh, it'd be all county stuff. Oh, you bet.
Something else where you're
Right.
rent.
Right. No, so I mentioned earlier about I Am Care.
Yeah.
Well, if I move probation out, probation has a different building right across the street.
Yeah.
We can rent that to I Am Care, or sell it to them. It wouldn't bother me either way. I'd sell it to them before I'd probably rent it to them, but yeah. I mean, that's your state dollars and federal dollars paying that deal, so why not us county get some back off of that? I mean, you have 30 people. That building would easily handle 30 people. So, yeah, be my suggestion.
My question was, if you go with the plan, the orange plan over there, increase capacity, what are you going to do about increased parking?
Well, as I kind of mentioned before, you don't have to have more parking. I personally don't believe in that, but I'm just telling you that the city wouldn't require you to put any more parking in. Now you're going to add another courtroom. I'll be honest with you. I mean, today's Tuesday. I drove around at 1 o'clock when I went into the courthouse.
You're not there early.
Right, I drove around 1 o'clock at the courthouse, and there was 20 parking spots on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock that were open. Out of that whole, you know, block, you know.
And
So,
some days you got to circle the block 3 times in this block.
well, yeah, you might park on the other side over by Libby Funeral Home, to be honest with you, and walk a block there to get in. I presume that's eventually what will happen if you don't add. That's one of the reasons why the east side idea got canceled by the county board. You had to buy 2 blocks of, you know, be it businesses or homes, to really build what size you need, you know. So, like where Helen's is, I guess if you guys all know where that little cafe is, Helen's, I mean, dynamite cook, great lady. You'd have to buy that block.
Air espresso?
Yeah, Air Espresso, yep. And then like Atchison's block, you'd have to buy out Atchison and all that, just to get the size and the parking that you would need for future. I mean, and if you don't think you need to do that, legally you don't, but realistically, I'm telling you, you better. So, yeah. So, how about any other questions? I've gone long. I'm gonna go ladies first. Is that okay? All right.
The orange plan,
Yes?
remodel third floor courtrooms,
Yes?
add 2 courtrooms to Annex Building.
Yes?
What does that do for efficiency with staff?
It doesn't. It adds, the problem is this. This is on the 2nd floor, these 2 new courtrooms. And then you'd have to go up a floor. So now, I mean, he can speak to this better, but you're gonna need security here, and you're gonna need security on 3rd floor. Before, you just needed security on 3rd floor. So you're gonna add labor. I mean, do I know it right to a T how much you would add? I don't. But you're gonna add labor.
We're gonna add another reload.
Yeah. Monty?
So I'm gonna go back to the tax forfeited land.
Sure.
And you made a good point. I didn't realize that Blackberry Township, Warva, they all benefit from it from the sale,
Correct.
okay? That's a good thing. And so if the county gets, what'd you say, 25% or 50%?
Yeah.
Okay, still.
Oh, it does
you're
pass it
not
on.
generating any
Yeah.
money on it.
Right.
Sell it. Be done with it. And, you know, so Blackberry Township gains, Warva
Right.
gains.
School district gains.
Everybody gains.
Correct.
So you can
And-
offset this in a huge way.
Yep,
I would go for that.
those pieces of land are paying tax too. Will help
Right.
us with our levy in the
You're
future.
generating
Correct.
property tax on that.
Correct.
Right now, you're not generating any income from it.
Correct. I agree. Don't get me wrong. And then to be honest, if you want to look at Blandon and Sappy and Bemidji and Duluth, we're as you mentioned, so we're down to 1 line. How much longer do we get to have that line working? I mean, they're great paying jobs, they're great people, they work hard, we know how to make paper. We're in a world market. I don't want to bet on this deal. But so, are we harvesting as much wood as we used to? We're not.
No.
So maybe we need to sell it, and maybe you put a new house on, and maybe you buy it for deer hunting, whatever it might be. But we get it back on the payroll.
When they got their taxes lowered on their property too.
Yeah, we lost over $150 million in land value with Blandon's deal.
Land doesn't make sense though. Land doesn't make sense to make paper.
Well, that's debatable. I'm not running that business. Go ahead, ma'am.
Especially people they make.
Would the city be able to absorb when you raise the sales tax? Would we make money? Because they're already saying that people don't shop in Grand Rapids. And then if you raise the sales tax, would they still come?
Oh, I think so. Do you go to Duluth? Do you shop in Duluth at all ever?
Oh, us?
Yeah. So you don't mind paying the 6% over the market of sales tax already, because you're paying 12, 13.
Gas is higher down there than it is here.
Sure, but I mean, did that stop you going to Duluth to go shopping or out to dinner or anything like that?
No, because the variety,
No.
better variety.
Sure, and same goes Bemidji, or Brainerd, or St. Cloud, or I mean,
There's times you can
we're a
rent
destination.
the
Oh, this is me being in the tourism business. I'm in the
Okay.
tourism business.
Okay.
Do I think this will affect people from making a reservation at a hotel? Absolutely not. I don't think it would hurt our tourism at all, to be honest with you. You know, we are a destination market for tourism. And the other thing we're rubber tire traffic too. So Highway 2 is one of the heaviest run, you know, east-west run for Canadian traffic. They'll dip down in the US, gas is cheaper, more places to eat, better places to stay, roads are in better condition, you know, so they'll drop down, they'll go around Chicago, or they'll go up through the Sault Ste. Marie, so we're on that path today. We do get a lot of traffic on Highway 2, 169 coming up, we're more a destinations kind of a traffic. So I don't think, this is just me speaking, I don't think that will affect us when it comes to tourism. You know, if you're buying stuff online now, you are going to buy stuff online in the future. And that's a challenge. I don't have that buy online, the e-commerce style. How can we do things? Well, until the state of Minnesota enforces it, you can't do nothing anyways. So, all I can tell you is I don't think it would hurt our community at all to have a 1% sales tax to help pay for our jail. I'm not a city person. I'm not worried. My focus is on a jail. So, any other questions?
I
And if
appreciate
you don't, and if you
everybody
guys don't
coming.
want to ask me questions on tape and you want to ask me afterwards, I'll stand here and hang here as long as you guys want to ask questions. How's that?
He'll be a pinata for the next hour. Give me time to get across the township line.
I ran late here. I apologize. I didn't mean to. We were talking pretty good, so I appreciate
But
you all.
thank you, and please
Yeah.
grab it. If you know family or friends who couldn't be here tonight, you
Well,
want to grab
one
a
more,
packet for them.
one more thing. Let's talk about this survey. The survey is very, very important. You can do this online. If you grab the packet, if you haven't, you can fill this out and I'll bring it back. I'll give you an envelope and you can mail it in if you'd like. However you'd like to do it. It's a one-time deal. It does have some questions on there. It does address, hey, are you okay with selling property? It does, and get into detail. There's always another please, you know, concept where if you don't like any of these ideas and you think you've got a better idea, write it down.
It is super quick and easy though on the
Yep.
Itasca County website.
Yep, you can do it on there too. So,
And then call our district, our commissioner
Sure.
thing too, or?
you can, you bet. All of our names and numbers are on that website. All of our emails are on that website too, and if you want to, and I'm more of an audio kind of a guy, I'd advise you to pick up the phone and say, hey, you know, here's how I feel, and explain it, and we're here to listen. We're here because of you people, and you get to tell me how you feeling. But don't get me wrong, I got to take in all of you to make a decision. So.
I just got one question, just a clear question on mine. The courts, they'll all be moved, if they're on the green project, all the courts, they'll move to a new project, new building.
Yes, sir.
The new site.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's no courts whatsoever in the old courthouse.
Nope. It'd be used. It'd be reutilized.
They're just in county offices and stuff.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Health and Human Services would be there. Yeah, but some things would still be there, you know. The highway department would still be there, the surveyor would still be there, you know, treasurer auditor would still be there.
Anything with courts and criminal.
Correct.
Would be in the new facility.
More of a criminal justice building.
And then
Okay.
they eliminate 3 other buildings that they're using now.
Correct? We're trying to consolidate some of the buildings,
One place.
put them back on tax rolls, you know. Yeah, that was the idea behind it.
Well, it's gotta be easier than tracking all over, cutting all over the city. You know, I have a pick up over here, I gotta go here, get this piece of equipment, and oh shit, I gotta get that back over here,
Right,
you know.
right. So that was the idea behind it. Yeah.
So
I think
you have no sites at all that you can choose from, or you do have some?
Well, the criteria is we need at least 12 acres.
Okay.
So there are a couple in the light industrial that are on the market. One right now is sitting there for $199. And it's 13.1, so it meets the criteria. But it's up to the commissioners and the county board to make a decision on what they're building first.
If you want to look at it this way, there isn't, well, $199,000 for, really, I think it's 14.1 acres. Zone industrial, I don't know the person's name. Zone industrial's got water, sewer, and power at the curb,
That's compared to 2.5 just for the fire hall.
just for the fire hall. And I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna probably add 3 onto that. That's what I'm gonna probably tell you, so.
Would there be local people doing the jobs?
You know, it will be a prevailing wage job no matter what. I personally would, I know that there's some great locals that could handle running this job. One of them being the man sitting right here.
Yeah.
Could he do the job? You damn right he could. Why? I have faith in him.
Yeah.
I've dealt with him. You know, is there other companies in our community that probably couldn't handle that job? You bet. There's probably some companies that couldn't handle the size and the scope. But there's a couple of companies here in this town, yeah, I think it'd be they could be great assets to this this build, yeah.
So would they have to do like bids and put it out, or is that?
Yeah, and we haven't, and the county has not gone to that, you know.
That level?
Yeah, will we do a PLA on this project or not? If that's what you're really asking me? No, we haven't had that communication talk at all. I can tell you though that prevailing wage, yes, we'll have that on this job no matter what.
Well, I think it'd help ease the voters' decision if it was stated that this project is, you know, done by, you know, local contractors as much as possible. You know, so that they know their money's staying here.
Yep.
Instead of coming out and St. Cloud.
That's pretty hard to control though, when you put it out for bids.
Yeah, and, you know, beyond,
No, but when he said as much as possible.
there's a, you know, ABC home builder, I'm gonna pick on Luke, let's say he's ABC home builder. No, man, he ain't, you know, it's him and 3 other guys, no, he's done.
Well, some of the
You
stuff
know.
to keep costs down nowadays, the cells will come in prefab. They come in built already. They put them together, weld them together, slide them into place, they're done, you close up the end of the wall. So they come from a couple different companies, but they all come prefab, saves money on the long run.
And there's a lot of certified
You
welders.
just hook things up.
Yeah, you go to the
Plumbing lines
back,
just come
you
to
go to the
the
back
back
and
and
hook your
everything.
plumbing line on.
Yeah, that's simple.
It's a prefab. I mean,
So it's all modular designs,
parts of it is.
parts of it.
The
The
cells.
jail part is, yeah, so, but there's, I'll be honest, there's only, you know, realistically, what is there, 3 builders in the whole state of Minnesota that specialize in jails? There's 3 architects, and there's 3 management companies that oversee projects that build jails in the state of Minnesota. So you're pretty limited on that aspect, but specialized. But now, you know, can Hawkinson handle all the paving and all that? You bet. You know, can Schwartz handle all the concrete? You bet. You know, can Casper hook up all the water in the sewer, or Hamlin hook up all? Yeah, you bet. Can he hook up all the water and do all the plumbing and heating? You bet. I mean, can you call electric company here in town and handle the job? Yeah, Pekegama Electric, they can handle the job. They have enough people to do it and the knowledge. Now, if you want to put a PLA on some of these type of things, well, I can start eliminating them because some of them aren't union, because they won't bid on it. It's just, so you'll do some of that. But, you know, right now I'm telling you this, is that it'll be a prevailing wage job. I'm not sure it's going to be a PLA job. It's going to be a prevailing wage for sure. And yes, there is some great companies out there that could handle this work and do it well. I mean, Northern Industrial Erectors, yeah, I mean, they can do that kind of stuff. I mean, and I personally, and he can testify to this, I don't care if you're a union or non-union, I want to hire the best. He's the best, I'm hiring him. That's me. That's private world though. That's not public world where I have to make him bid. So, well, I'm just being honest with you. So, and Steve understands that. So,
I had a separate sales tax question. Do I understand that the board asked for an exemption from not paying sales tax on materials?
yes, that has to be a special ask, and that's not a given. So, you know, say we got to buy toilets from him or whatever, and there's a sales tax on it, we're asking not to pay the sales tax on the toilet. You know, or the lumber, or the windows, or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Because some of that is using taxes to pay taxes.
Yeah, it's
You've
kind
already been taxed.
of crazy. That's right. Yeah. So we're asking permission for that. We have not been given the green light on that. So that's another ask we have to do. You didn't have that look in your eye to ask me a question. All right, good.
No,
All right, we're gonna call this a night. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time.